Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Wednesday, hump day, and what a tremendous time to talk about our favorite frustrating topic, dental insurance. Yay, dental insurance. And I'm very excited to spend this hour with you because I believe that it doesn't always have to be a curse, that you can have control and there are solutions. And so we're going to gop right into it. But I also want to give everybody the opportunity. I do want you to use the chat button to interact with me and the Q&A button, because I'm also going to have Renell looking and keeping an eye on both chat and Q&A, because this webinar is for you. You know, the whole mission and philosophy of Spear is to make sure that our community can actually deliver the very best care for the very best results. And on my side, from a practice management point of view, I want you to be rich and good looking. I'm a huge fan of karmic capitalism. I believe that if you do the right things for the right reasons, you shouldn't have to do a 50% reduced fee crown. And so that's where we're going to go. So please feel free to hop in there at any time. But because I want to take you as far as I can take you, we're going to hop in right away. Now, when I say removing dental insurance as a barrier, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't live with it. It also doesn't mean that you can't live without it. In the first step, whenever I'm working with clients, either in our in any of our guided solutions with our practice management offerings here at Spear, I am hyper aware of you got to get your house in order first before you can actually do the things that are going to make a difference when it comes to changing your relationship with insurance. So here's the basically what I want you thinking with, right? The first thing that you have to do is you have to know your overall vision and your vision for insurance. It's not, people kind of just have it like a rash that, I don't know how it got there and I don't know how to get rid of it. But there is a vision. You have to have a long-term idea on what its role is in your practice and what the role isn't, and what your practice aspires and perspires to be, so that you can begin to analyze the blessings and the curses, the strengths and the challenges. Once you know that, you have to know who you want to serve from the community, right? That is absolutely understanding the demographics of the kind of target patients that you are attracting, where they work, what they do for a living, what kind of benefits those workplaces offer. It's all very important. Once you know that, you got to know your practice's statistics. You have to know your key performance indicators. You cannot manage insurance by the tummy ache. I feel like it's not profitable. I feel like my patients are run by their insurance mindset. You got to know, because numbers don't lie. What you also have to know is your team. And we're going to talk very much about the team's role in managing your relationship, either in insurance or outside of insurance. You got to know your team and know how they need to be supported. And then, of course, you need to know your practice systems and how they can be strengthened. How many times in the past several years have I worked with clients here at Spear Education who are like, that's it. I'm off of Delta, MetLife, United Concordia. You can name whatever Sith Lords you want to name. And I want to do it tomorrow. And I started my career as a cash flow crisis consultant. And the last thing that you want to do is create a bigger crisis by reacting too quickly to the current crisis. And so there is a kind of eat your spinach moment where you have to do your homework first. You have to clean up your systems first. You have to get your house in order to make a significant transition like that. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next several minutes. So where are we going to start? First and foremost, I want you all to look in the mirror, because I love the stinking thinking of my patients have an insurance mindset. And the truth of the matter is that insurance mindset came from some dental practice that put it there in the first place. So if you want to, at least at the minimum, change your relationship with your patient's understanding of insurance, you need to honestly take a good hot assessment at the 7 signs that you are an insurance-based practice. And this isn't easy. It's a bit of an ice water dip, but let's take a look at this. Number 1 with a bullet, doctor and team are uncomfortable recommending treatment not covered by patient's insurance, right? Even if it's just your bubble talk, right? Oh, we're going to tell them this, but this is a Delta Dental patient, right? That's the first sign that it's more you than them. Number 2, patients believe that insurance should cover 100% of their fees in their treatment all the time. Where does that come from? A failure to educate, influence, and inspire the patients. That had to come from somewhere, right? That had to come from somewhere. Number 3, patients don't understand the word estimated and regularly challenge you on the statements indicating an additional balance, not the insurance company, but you. Again, it's all about you being comfortable with the relationship and then you communicating it in a way that impinges and inspires is all part of this. Number 4, patients demand pre-Ds even if their insurance companies don't require it, or worse. I still hear many practices that have been nicked along the way that demand pre-Ds themselves. And again, that's going down the vortex of I am now very solidly in an insurance mindset. Number 5, your fees correspond to the local major insurance carrier. I know that it can feel erosive. I know that some of you have given up. I know that the stinking thinking can be, why bother? We're already discounting our fees because most of our patients are insurance patients. The fact of the matter is your gross, usual, customary, reasonable fees must, as a marketing strategy, match your vision and values and levels of excellence. If you don't think you're in the 50th percentile sassy, then you need to put your fees where you believe your sassiness lies. For many reasons, all around the fact that every now and then benefits companies do surveys of fees and set fees accordingly. But I also need you to get your head out of the sand. I need you to see what can and should be your potential when you are doing the kind of dentistry that patients deserve and desire, and what that looks like from a profit center and what the reductions actually do to your bottom line. More on that in just a few minutes. We're still there. We got 2 more. Number 6, treatment is phased to match the insurance benefits, not necessarily the clinical needs, especially around the end of the year. We all get hosed up as to what do we do with that end of the year. And then number 7, patients expect your practice to argue with their insurance companies about what is covered. And just because I'm curious, not furious, I want everybody to put into chat. And Renelle, just take a look for me. I want you to be honest when you're looking in the mirror. How many of you, yes or no, have some of those 7 going on in your practices today? And be honest, because I know where you live and I'll find you. Ready? It's yes or no. How many of you? Right? How we doing, Renelle?
Lots of yeses.
Yeah.
All
Well,
yeses.
great. Physicians and team, heal thyself, because this is something you can control. And that's what it's all about. It's all about, they're still coming in. Oh, good. I have an interactive group. I'm going to ask you more
One
questions.
no.
One no? Then I want that person who said no to come teach this with me next time. I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed, right? And when you're thinking about this, it is your relationship. It's your relationship with your patients. It's your relationship with your systems. And it's your choice about how you function with dental benefits. 100%. 100%. So if you are thinking of pulling the plug on dental benefits plans, and notice I switched from insurance to benefits because I learned from the best that the I word isn't accurate. Insurance is not what dental benefits are. They are a gift. They are extra support so that patients can help to fund the dentistry that they need, deserve, and desire. So we're going with dental benefits. Now, there are some very specific step-by-step processes that we deploy here at Spear to make sure that the exit isn't more painful than the living with it. And these are the things that I need you to think about. So before you storm off into the sunset, you absolutely need to diagnose how big a problem the plan is and how much impact it has on the practice. In other words, you're going to answer the following questions in detail. In detail. The first question has to be, what is my vision for the practice in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, right? Are you bringing on associates? Are you transitioning in, out? Are you buying equipment? Do you want to specialize in a certain kind of care? All of those things are important. Any practice management poobah is going to tell you that the why always comes before the how, what, and when. And that should be the anchor and filter as to how you make all your strategic decisions in the practice. Number two, this is very important. What is my current patient base? And that is, we're going to talk about active, right? An active patient base for the general practitioner, and for perio. It's actually, let's use it for everybody because specialists can look at this through 18 months as well. Is the definition is anyone who's seen for anything in the last 18 months counted once. I like 18 months because 24 months, they're starting to grow barnacles on their starboard side. They're really honestly moving towards inactive. 12 months is too tight. And you do need to know your active patient base because that is your greatest asset next to your team. The next thing you need to know is what percentage of my base is in the plans, the individual plans. This is starting to get into what we call a utilization analysis. More on that in just a little bit. And you need to know it, not just from the gut. There needs to be a count up so that you can look at that in a very clear way so that you can make the right decisions. Here comes the next step of what we do as a utilization analysis. We do want you to focus on one benefits plan at a time, not do this globally for all your plans. The minute you know how many bodies are in a plan, the next thing I need you to know is what percentage over the last, ideally 12 months, what percentage of doctor production was generated from that plan, and what percentage of hygiene production was generated from that plan. And here's why. You might have the bodies, but if the bodies are the least committed patients that you have, that's going to make a difference. Or if those bodies are great in, with their hygiene intervals, but don't do any advanced dentistry, this is also going to help you make decisions as to not only the impact on the practice, but what would need to be replaced in order for you to stay solid. So these are very important. You can't quickie these. You need to know this. What you also need to know is how much you're writing off per month and year with this PPO, HMO, whatever it is, right? And to do that, you got to know that you've been tracking what's known as your usual, customary, and reasonable fee, the gross production versus adjusted production. And if you don't have that, then you got to shake your dental practice management software and get it, because if you don't know it, you can't respond to it. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a very keep it simple, silly profitability analysis. You could go into way more depth, but knowledge is power. Power equals control, right? And I need, it may raise your festivity levels to look at this, but I'm going to give you a very simple model to just start taking a look at the impact of some of these plans against your vision, values, strategy, and profitability. So when you're doing this, I'm just going to use a crown as an example. Obviously, I suggest for our specialists, it could be a quadrant of surgery, it could be implants, it could be an ortho case, it's whatever it is that you might have. But let's just use a crown fee as an example. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to write your fee, and I'm going to use the UCR at 100%. Remember, UCR is usual, customary, reasonable, also known as gross. let's say that your crown fee is 1,600. And if you do post and core and build up, feel free to add that. Okay. The next thing I want you to do is on average, what's the timing that is needed to produce that crown, right? And in our example, we're saying it's an hour for crown prep and 3/4 of an hour for cementation. Obviously, if you're a CAD CAM practice, that would be just the one shot deal, right? That you're doing, but I'm doing the good old fashioned crown and seat, right? That's about 1 3/4 time that it is chair time. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get a average per hour lab fee and supply fee. And the way you're going to do the average per hour lab fee and supply fee is the easiest way to do this, to just get an idea of what your lab and supplies are per hour, is go to your profit and loss statement, find the line that says lab, the one line that says dental supplies, divide it by your last year's hours, and you're going to get a very keep it simple lab fee, supply fee, right? You're going to times that by the 1.75 hours, and you're going to get your cost for that 1.75 hour for both lab and supplies. Those are your variable costs. We want them to stand out. What you're then going to do is your fixed expenses, and your fixed expenses would be all your other direct operational costs. That would be facility, that would be staffing, that would be all the little stuff, insurances, accountants, office supplies. You would again go to your P&L, add those suckers up, divide it by your hours so that you have an idea of your fixed expense per hour. And you're going to actually multiply that by your hours, and you're going to get your hourly fee, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to subtract those fees from your pre-tax earnings, right? From your full fee to get the pre-tax earnings, and you're going to divide it by your hours to get an average hourly. There's a lot more stuff you could be doing it. By the way, I misread. The lab fee is going to be just a flat fee, a fixed fee, because you're going to know how much the lab fee is for the crown, right? You don't have to do that by the hourly. So I just got too excited to say that. Now watch this. A 10% adjustment off that full fee, just 10%, run the same model, right? And what you're going to discover is you've come down to $344 an hour. Now, this is where your festivity levels, I didn't know if you knew you had them, but you do, is going to go up, 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 right? A 20% reduction off of full fee is a 42% reduction to your bottom line, right? And then that's the facts, right? And you need to make the decision as to what you can honestly afford. Now, some people call this a marketing fee. To a certain degree, you can. There are ways to do this better. Obviously, multiple procedures are going to change the landscape. Doing, a CAD CAM restoration where you're not bringing them back for that second appointment will change this. There's a lot of things that you can do post-core, those kinds of things. But the fact of the matter is I want you to look at it from the most simple lens, because the pain of not changing has to far outweigh the potential pain of the change for that change to occur to get you to do this. So that's a very simple profitability analysis that anybody can do and anybody can see. By the way, it doesn't matter whether it's a benefits plan or you're insane around your courtesy adjustments. The bottom line, when you adjust your fees, you adjust your bottom line. Now, that's just some of the questions. There are more questions to ask before you pull the plug. How many new patients find you through that benefits plan compared to other methods? And of course, you're immediately going to start looking at building up a marketing plan to make up for these patients. If you are looking at MetLife as the number one pain in your what, and that's what you're going for, stop asking MetLife patients for referrals. We're going to go to the target market. We're going to be very focused and intentional about our marketing strategies. Number 6, do new patients receive an inspiring new patient experience so that they want what they need regardless of insurance limits? And I'm sorry, I'm going to be very honest with you. Patients will pay if they own their problem, want the solution, and have the wherewithal to pay for it. And if they are not enthusiastic ambassadors to your care, there's a huge difference between a compliant patient and a committed patient. And a committed patient's going to rise above pretty much any and all obstacles to be able to continue to be in relationship with the practice. And that's truly the way of the world. Now, again, I'm not saying that your lavender scented towels don't do the trick, but it is important to understand that it's not enough to meet expectations. You got to exceed expectations and continuously exceed expectations to get the patients to want to do what you want them to do. Which employers are on this plan? That's an important part of the demographic study. I know I've done a lot of work in the Florida areas, and it was really interesting to deal with the Disney cast members because they obviously have all different types of benefits models there, and that would be the entire community. So you have to do the research, right? And when you're doing this, you're also looking at your bottom line, your expenses. You're discovering whether you can afford to leave this plan. And there's a rule of thumb here that author Bill Rossi talks about, right? Is if you look at the fact that if you have a 40% net on production, right, that's to your bottom line. And the discounts on the PPO are about 20%, then you can lose up to half of your patients and not lose any of your profits. Because remember, if we're talking about 42% write-off to your bottom line, and that's assuming that everybody's getting that same write-off. So that's a very flat line thing to look at, but you do need to look at it, right? So if you lost less than half, you would be ahead of that. So the break-even point is discount percentage divided by net percentage equals your loss percentage. Just as a rule of thumb, believe me, don't just take that and run with that. Now, bottom line, if you have not answered all of those questions in detail, you shall not pass. You are not even ready to consider changing your relationship with dentistry. Now, I want to take a step here because I just gave you some keys to the kingdom to begin to reconcile your relationship. I've got miles to go before we sleep here. So, but I want to stop here and I want to just check to see, if there is any questions about what I just talked about, the profitability analysis. Put it into chat very quickly. I'm going to take a quick look because I want to make sure that I leave no child behind. So any questions on what we just said, because in an hour, I tend to talk really fast because the New Yorker in me comes out and I want to make sure that we're understanding. All right. So Denise is lost. Okay. And Denise, if you can give me a little bit more, the net percentage. So if we go back to what this formula is, let me just get back to this one. Okay. The net percentage is if you have, the net is basically, if you take home, if your compensation, if doctor's compensation is 40% of production, right? And the discounts are 20%, that would be assuming across everyone. If you take your discount percentage divided by your net percentage, that could give you an indication of how much you could lose. You could lose, right? Don't get hung up on this. It's not really a great formula. I put it in there more for the idea of you can lose about 20% of your practices, right? Or more than that, if you can lose 50% and still make a lot of money. And Jody, we can show the math slides at the end too, if we have time. I just wanted to make sure that you guys had an idea on where we're going. So moving a little bit farther, there we go. I'm going to show a little Hobbit stuff again, but let's go into a little bit deeper. Okay. Once you've made the decision to change your relationship with a benefits plan, the first step is educating your team, right? Educating your team on the why, the what, the how, the verbal skills, the philosophy behind it. Your team has to be a united front of influencers, all ready to be able to answer any of the questions. Now, when I'm saying the things that I'm about to show you, depending upon how deep you have benefits in your practice, this could be 3 months, this could be 6 months, this could be 18 months, this could be longer, right? You can't quickie this. If you quickie it, it's going to be painful. If you do it the right way, the transition can be relatively smooth with no reduction to your bottom line. In fact, you can increase your bottom line. That's what we're talking about here. So patient education, team education starts immediately, right? So that you can. You're going to educate the patients about 3 to 6 months before the change. I'm going to give you an example of an email that we help our doctors to write when they're starting the phase. Long before you pull the plug, I want the patients involved in that strategy to begin to be educated over the fact that you're looking at a change, that you're analyzing the implications, that you're finding new ways so that patients don't have to feel that they have to leave the practice. So conversations ideally are happening 3 to 6 to 12 months before the actual transition occurs. And I'm going to give you some examples of that in just a few minutes, right? The next step is going to be focusing on marketing to attract new patients, the right profile, not just bodies, but bodies with intentional demographic understanding of who and where they live and what they'd be interested in, right? Is you want to start filling up the coffers. You want to start evening out those percentages so you have fee-for-service patients, or at least patients who are unsubscribed, right? That can use their benefits towards their care, but you are not a contracted provider, right? That's very important. You're also going to implement better financial arrangements. It is important. Affordability is a fact, my friends. And you want your patients, you want to trust your patients to have both internal and external opportunities. This is where you're looking at membership plan strategies. This is where you're looking at different ways to be able to support patients so they never have to compromise their care due to financial concerns. That's a very important part of this. The next step is, long before you start to actually reduce the insurance, start to think about increasing your productivity per hour. Now, we're not production machines. I'm not even implying that I'm asking you to diagnose scaling and route planning on 4 quadrants, whether they need it or not. I am talking about beginning to look at complete care. Beginning to look at is if there's 2 crowns to be done, doing the 2 crowns. If there's quadrants to be done, doing the quadrants, which means not only inspiring the patients with the benefits, but inspiring and influencing the patients without it. It is absolutely a much easier transition when not done in scarcity. So if you're waiting to increase your productivity per hour or your net per hour, pardon me, till the end, then you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And that's not what we want. That's not, in fact, I just choked on that. That doesn't work at all. When you're finally ready to do this, now you're going to also, it's implied, but you're reading through your contract. Many of you don't even know what the contract says, right? Many of you don't know if there's a 30-day opt-out, if it's a 90-day opt-out, if it's once a year, if you can stop taking new patients, all those things. Don't know or have any idea what the benefits are going to be as a non-subscriber, right? Because you do need to know this. So there's a fair amount of legwork that has to be done around the contract itself. But once you notify the dental insurance company, know that the dental insurance companies are going to continue to send correspondence to your patients, right? Right now in California, Delta Dental is sending letters to the patients every time they're scheduled for their next appointment. that you are no longer a contracted provider. So they need to know that that's happening and how to deal with it long before. So you're going to notify the dental insurance company. You're going to monitor patient retention, because I got news to you, my pals, is that absolutely 100%, if you do this right, of the people that do go, um, about 30% of them will come back, right? One of the things that we recommend highly is, as you are educating the patients, you're going to break them down into A, B, C buckets. A buckets, B buckets, C buckets. The A buckets are those patients that you've talked to that are your most committed ambassadors to care, that will stay with you no matter what. The B patients are going to need a little bit of coaxing, right? There's some trepidation that we're going to need to be a little bit more handholdy around this. C patients either don't meet your vision, values, and philosophy, or have definitely implied that they're out of here if that happens. And as you start to put those buckets, you can actually manage the change and when's the right time, those kinds of things. But what also can happen is that the B patients are the most likely patients that might leave for the short term, but come back, right? And the verbal skills are something like, we're happy to tell you, many of our patients who thought that they would have to leave due to the benefits transition found that they missed us, missed our service, our care, and our level of dental outcomes, and have returned to us. And we want you to know the door is always open. And then you follow up and you open the door again 6 months later, because I got news for you. Patients don't like change as much as you don't like change. Many will stay and many will come back. And that's important, right? I'm going to say it again because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. When you have a patient who owns their problem, wants the solution offered, the only thing left to do is help them pay for it, right? And the benefit, having just been a gift, is still going to be a gift to help them pay for it, right? That's, it is absolutely. Now, I'm also going to tell you, in all of my years in teaching case acceptance, the easiest way to get a doctor to moonwalk out of the operatory is for the patient to look at you and say, how much does it cost? Or I can't afford it. And usually there's objections behind that. That's just the easiest one, right? That's the easiest one to throw up, because then I don't have to talk about my true misgivings. So it is all about, gaining the hearts and minds of your patient from the moment that they call you for their first appointment. That will make or break this success, because we know, and it's absolutely true, money finds a way for things that people want. I mentioned Disney before, but that's one of my favorite analogies. For those of you who know me, I'm an ex-Disney cast member, so I use Disney analogies all the time. But one of my favorite things to do when I do grace Disney World is I love to hang out outside of the Disney beauty parlors. And I'll tell you why. A, because I'm sick. That's weird, but I'll tell you why. There's a reason, right? For those of you who have never been there, it's where you basically shellac your kids with glitter and they become pretty princesses that last about 24 hours before they get into the pool, right? Now, the reason I get so excited is because the cost of that shellacking is just about the same, for the most part, of a quadrant of scaling and root planing. And one of my biggest pet peeves, and if I've got hygienists on the call, you're gonna agree with me 100%. There is nothing more frustrating than a patient who walks in with perio pockets you could lose your car keys in, who has the first question of, does my benefits cover this? Right? Does my benefit, there's nothing more frustrating, right? And those same patients are the ones that are still investing in the Disney trip. So I really want you to know that your future is in your hands. You got it the way you want it. So I'm going to give you a sample of some of the education resources we use with our Spear clients, so that you too can get a feel for this. Now, whenever I do sample templates or sample scripts, I'm going to warn you, they're almost always too wordy. You can make these easier. We overword this just so you can have a word vomit so you have choice. Because I'm trying to get you to understand the feeling and the theory behind this. But what I'm going to share with you now is an example of a e-blast that could be sent long before you actually pull the trigger. This is the educational e-blast. So let's look at this together. You ready? Dear patient, right? Because I value as a patient, I want to communicate to you a change we're considering making in the future that may affect you, right? And it might be at the end of the year, we reanalyze all of our relationships with benefits. This is a change that we're considering making, and here's why. Okay. We're analyzing whether to continue with XYZ Insurance as a preferred provider. My team is devoted to the highest level of customized, comprehensive care in a friendly, comfortable environment that always exceeds expectation. Now, that's a word vomit right there. But the reason I put that in is that's a line that would come directly out of your vision, right? I want you, this is a vision-based decision, not a scary scream for profit organization. It's all about the vision and values. That's the decision level filter that you use to make these decisions, right? And I want the patients to be as inspired by your vision as I want you to be inspired by your vision. We're proud of our high standards and fear that continued involvement with this plan may not allow us to continue to provide you with the excellent care you deserve for your long-term health and wellness. Okay? That could be much shorter, but I want you to get the idea, right? What that would mean for you if we decided to no longer participate is that you're always welcome in our practice, no matter what decision that we make in the coming months, because for many of you, this is only a slight change because you are not limited to seeing a preferred provider. We would still file your insurance. By the way, with e-claims, I would much prefer to control that puppy, help the patient, and still file. Absolutely. The check may be coming to them, right? Your benefits would be issued directly to you. But why wouldn't you make this as easy as possible for your patients to continue to get the dentistry they deserve and desire from you, right? Right? We are diligently researching the implications, right, of this potential decision, and welcome your input and questions in the coming months for visits. Feel free to contact our visit. Now, you don't even have to get that specific. It could be as simple as every year we review all of our plans to ensure that it doesn't compromise our ability to deliver the care that is part of our vision. This year, we are looking at this. In your coming visits, we'll talk to you about the results. You can make this very, very simple, because what I want this to do is open the door to a deeper conversation. And this is why you have to educate your team first as well, because your team has to be ready to excitedly. Did you receive our e-blast? We're so excited about the fact that our doctor is diligent and making sure that we are not letting any barriers come between best care and our patients. What questions do you have? Right? There it is. There it is. And as you're asking those questions, if you have Excel spreadsheets or some kind of monitor to go, that was an A patient, that was a B patient, that was a C patient, congratulations, you are on the way to creating a much better opportunity for benefits transition than you had before. So this is an important letter, right? And as I said, it doesn't even have to get that specific. I got that specific because I wanted to definitely put you out of your comfort zone so you could see that and know that. Now, how do you handle that scary insurance question, right? For those of you who are Spear Online, clients, one of my favorite, and we're going to actually talk about a great opportunity in a little bit for Spear Online, is that one of my favorite things on Spear Online for team is the conversation essentials, which are the quickies that give teams very quick, down and dirty verbiage to handle some of the scariest things that they face every day. Because I am empathetic about that this can be scary. I'm not sympathetic, but I'm empathetic. But this is one of my favorite ones. Will this be covered by my insurance plan? Right? It happens all the time, right? So here's some of the verbiage I want you to think with, right? You ready? Here comes number one. We never want finance or insurance obstacles to stand in the way of our patients' health. That's why we want to provide you the best guidance in order to navigate the sometimes complex insurance steps to care coverage, whether in or out of network. We're here. We're going to help. We're not going to own it, but we're going to help. But wait, there's more. The great news is the fees associated with our dental care and the financial options we offer make this affordable with or without benefits support. And you got to believe it. That's why educating your team to believe it is going to be a really important point to this, right? Once we meet at your new patient evaluation or hygiene visit, I will be happy to do a benefits check and see what would it mean for you to come in or come back in to see us. And even the doctor, oh yes, see the white coat? Even the doctor can get in on this, because if you're not a proponent for your fees, when I teach leadership, I'm like, you call your team into the icy waters of change, you dear doctor first. If you can't stand up and be proud of your success and your excellence and the fees that you charge, then we got a bigger problem than just the insurance plans, right? We work with other patients who are also concerned about the financial implications of being out of network. What they found is that by choosing us, the fee difference between us and in-network providers was surprisingly small, while the difference in quality of experience and results was great. Right? And there you have it. And there you have it, right? Now, once again, I want to be very clear. Many of you are like, who talks like this, right? When the whole idea of influencing scripts is to find the answer behind the words, absorb that answer so that you and your team can feel armed and loaded with automatic responses that you believe in, that are true, right? By the way, there's a huge difference between influence and manipulation. At no time would I ever suggest that you should say something or do something that isn't true. That isn't true, right? Honesty and integrity is an absolute essential element here. And it's something that you need to think about. Now, I just gave you a boatload, and it's probably making your heads explode, because the only thing I really, and I've got a few more slides before I open it up to Q&A, so I want to continue to have this chat with you. The only thing I really wanted you to realize in this webinar is the oncoming train doesn't have to run you over, right? It doesn't have to run you over. You don't have to live with it. In fact, there are many reasons why you shouldn't have to live with it. It's a business decision, just like anything else. Now, there's also times where it is appropriate. When you're first starting up, I do consider a couple of benefits plans that fit your target demographic profile as a marketing cost for a startup is absolutely appropriate. It's absolutely okay, depending upon the mix, to have a couple of plans in play, because it attracts the kinds of patients that you want to work with and the kind of dentistry that you love to do. All of the, I really think that we have to deflate insurance as the boogeyman and look at it through the lines of what does it do for our vision, our values, our future growth. That's what I want happening. And again, this is probably the hardest thing for a practice to settle in on, because you have to be patient. You have to be patient, because the first steps, remember I mentioned the fact that your systems have to be in order. your systems have to be in order. If you don't have a great new patient experience, if you've got a flying zucchini circus schedule, if you've got right, no financial arrangements, your continuing care department is not efficiently keeping patients in the appropriate interval. If your marketing isn't in place, I wouldn't even touch the benefits transition yet. So house in order first, because if you got the house in order, what makes patients love you is you and your team, first and foremost. Do not discount the relationships that you have with your patients. Do not discount it, right? It is the reason why dentistry is different than medical is that I never see the same practitioner twice in what's considered to be a high-end group of medical doctors. I have little to no loyalty with them. I have loyalty with my dentist, right? And they need to love you, and you need to not only celebrate that, but expand that so that that becomes the reason, a part of the value proposition, right? And that is the relationships that you build with your patients. Now, if is the flying zucchini circus busy in your office, and the only time that the patients see the doctor and hygiene is with his or her hair on fire, right? Then you got to look at what do we need to do? What do we need to do to reinvest in the relationships that we build with both new and existing patients, right? And when you build that trust and connection, right? When you are firm and authoritative and clear, right? It's going to build that trust and respect, right? When you are kind and gentle, it builds connection. You want both, right? You want to be line in the sand when you need to be, but absolutely kind and gentle as well, right? Being kind and respectful to team members is all part of that as well. I am a huge team component. And I can tell you the fact, have you ever heard happy wife, happy life, happy team, happy patients, right? Great systems, motivated team. The number two, the two things that are most dominant in today's environment is how do we deal with benefits? Number two, how do we attract and retain team, and how do we keep them aligned? And you can't do this without a team. It takes a village, 100%. And you need to communicate effectively with patients and one another, because when you set the tone as a leader, it makes all the difference. Now, it is now open season for Q&A. I will answer anything at the drop of a hat. But while you're starting to put some Q&A into the Q&A, I want to give you a couple of really special things I want you to think about. Is that this is really hard to be able to grasp. I saw the math you were struggling with the math. There is a practice management seminar that I teach with Dr. Victoria Farr on campus. That is coming up again in August. We just did it this past month. That goes deeply into the numbers, the systems, the staff. It's called Mastering Dental Practice Management. It's a wonderful workshop, and there is, I believe, a special offer for that. So I would love you to click on this QR code, that if that's something that would interest you, a lower level touch, because one of the things that we really are proud of as a community is that we absolutely want to support thousands. And to do that, there's all sorts of levels of opportunity. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier was the things like conversation essentials. And there is, I believe, I think I might have just frozen. Oh, no. Let me try something here. I'm freezing. There you go. I got it. That was good. I've got the other thing I want to offer before I start to take questions is that there is a very low touch way for you and your team to start getting educated via Spear Online. There is everything but the kitchen sink on Spear Online, from patient education, all this marvelous stuff that you can get at a very low price point. It's got stuff on financial arrangements. It's got all the conversation essentials. There's a whole bunch that I've done on every system, and I recommend that highly, highly is not only how to up your next level of clinical excellence, but management and team excellence as well. So I'm hoping that there are questions because I want to answer as many of them as possible, right? As you're thinking about this. But when we're talking about this, we are at our best when we are creating enduring relationships and personal connections, right? When we are fully engaged, we connect with, laugh with, and uplift the lives of our customers, even if it's just for a few moments. And that is the name of the game, my friends. So I would love, first of all, just in chat, right? How many of you, and this is just so I can get a feel for it because I can never see this as we go. Yes or no? How many of you have gotten at least a pearl and or an insight as to what you can take as a baby step towards mitigating your relationship with insurance? Can I just see it's like yes or no? Do we got something? Because if not, I'm going to keep you here and we're going to go for another 6 hours. Only kidding. I don't think I can control that. Oh, good. We got some. Excellent. You can tell me no. I can take it. I'm a big girl. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. And I do see a couple of things coming up in Q&A. So,
And before you do that, Amy, someone did ask if you can share the slide 1 through 7, the one before the pull the plug slide.
oh, sure.
Someone
And
asked it
everybody
earlier.
is going to get access to the recording as
Yes.
well, right? So, sure, let me go back and share. And then while we're sharing it, I'll put up the full one. And while we're sharing that, let me go back. It's going to take me a second just to go all the way backwards. You guys are going to see you're going to see my internal mechanisms here for just a second. Okay. Um, it's almost like seeing my shoes off. Here we go. All right, let me get to from current slide. There we go. Everybody's seeing? Let me put these up for you really quickly. And you're probably going to do it one at a time. So dentists and team are uncomfortable. Patients believe that insurance should cover 100% of the fees. Patients don't understand the word estimated. Patients demand pre-Ds or the practice does. The fees correspond to the local insurance carrier. Treatment is phased. Patients expect you to argue. So while I have that up, let's take a look at the Q&A. I can't do it while I'm sharing, Renelle, so you want to read it for me?
Oh, yes.
Questions?
So the first question is, do you notice payroll going down when doing or when going out of network? Seems like insurance is a full-time job.
Actually, it, wow, that's a loaded question, right? Because very often what happens is with e-claims and really good insurance information systems, this should not be that big, that formidable a job. With that said, it depends upon the size and the scope of your practice. Sometimes you do need a full-time insurance coordinator. More often than not, I find that a financial coordinator who's also had to do insurance, you're still going to process the benefits. So there's still e-claims to be done. And the time saved is now going into working more formidably on comprehensive care and financial arrangements, right? So I don't necessarily see a huge cost savings in that. What I see is just more to your bottom line. That's probably the bigger gig. Good. Anything else?
How do you handle treatment plans? It makes it impossible to estimate an accurate treatment when treatment plan being out of network.
When you're out of network, what you do is you get the patient to buy off on the entire fee, right? The verbal skills are going to sound something like, to the best of our knowledge, the fee is going to be approximately 6,500. As a rule, we're expecting that your benefits will cover approximately X, right? That's just it. And we have great financial options so that you don't have to feel like this is not affordable, And I wouldn't say that all at once, but you're basically getting the commitment off the full fee, right? And you absolutely can offer financing for patients that are out of network, 100%. You cannot call it a benefits plan, right? We're not even talking a membership plan, but you absolutely can do internal options, and external options, care credit, all the rest, for patients that are out of network. 100%. That's just fee for service, right? And you can estimate for the most part, 9 times out of 10, you can still have insurance information systems. You can gather information and give good, solid approximates. But the great news is your patients know the relationship is with you, and the commitment for the full fee is also their accountability. So whatever they get is a gift. It's a gift.
Someone is asking if you can share that Spear slide again. I believe they're talking about the Spear Online one.
Sure, because that means that people, by the way, you're going to get sick of seeing me because I'm going to actually do this easier because this is the better way to go. Because there's a lot of practice management stuff that's great for team training. I recommend it highly. Not that everybody else isn't wonderful as well. But if we're talking about stuff like this, we've got amazing things around case acceptance, around hygiene, around all of that. And I'm hoping that you're going to take advantage of this because it's a non-threatening way to get educated in a very quick way. How we doing? We done?
It looks like there was just one more that was posted in the chat. How can we offer financing for patients that are out of network?
I picked that one up, Renelle.
Oh, you did? I thought,
Of course you can.
okay.
Of course you can. The relationship with your patient is you.
Thank you.
That's what it is. So folks, it has been a quick pleasure, but a pleasure. I'm kind of on a quest. I'm on a quest to understand that in any and all economies, for any 3 patients that say no, the 4th and 5th will always say yes. Dentistry is wanted and needed by many at all times. There is solutions. There's solutions and there's abundance, right? There is abundance. And I want you to know that because it's the scarcity decisions that make or break you. So thank you so much for spending the time and actually participating. That was fun.